weeks. So I'm glad we finally got the chance. That was a beautiful day in Opua, overlooking the harbour, living in paradise.
Yeah, well, we are. In fact, believe it or not, most New Zealanders don't know this, but I read an article on in the news last night on Yahoo, and it claimed that a institution in England every year does a survey, and it evaluates the best places in the world to live, and they identified New Zealand as the fourth best country in the world to live in.
Well, they got it wrong, didn't they? Because it's further up than that.
Yeah, I would think so. But that's in terms of economics, it's
Right.
in terms of crime or limited crime, political freedoms, which is really high on the list. We seem to have more political freedoms and less restrictions than the rest of the world. And coming from America, I kind of understand where they're coming from. So yeah, I feel quite pleasured and privileged to be able to live here.
It's a nice spot. I like your place.
Yeah, I do too.
So now,
And it wasn't handed to me. It came with an awful lot of work, and I'm quite proud of the fact I built this house myself.
you built it yourself? Highly skilled craftsman, I'd say.
Definitely not. It's called no skills, no money, but I wanted what I wanted, and it was just do it yourself.
And a whole lot of determination. I've seen your work. I've been looking at those cabinets in there. They're very, very nice.
Oh yeah, but for every let's say square meter of progress, I probably made 20 or 30 mistakes and had to redo it 3 or 4 times.
Hey, but you know, it's still progress, isn't it?
It is.
And it's a beautiful, beautiful result. I mean, this all timber home, it's fantastic. So you, in actual fact, the outside isn't timber, is it?
No, it's just conventional New Zealand cladding.
But you built the place of a special product, didn't you?
Well, the actual interior walls is called triboard.
Yep.
It's a local Kaitaia product, which isn't used too much in New Zealand, but it's a very affordable product. It's very simple to work with, and no framing in the house. It just depends on the board itself, and very easy to construct and very easy to work with. And it's my second triboard house that I built, and I would never ever consider any other sort of material.
So how does it work? The tri-board is the inside wall, but isn't that also the structure?
Yes, it is. It's both. It's both the structure and the inside wall. And once you put it up, you just clad over the outside of it for your outdoor protection, for your weather protection.
So the tri-board itself is not weatherproof, but the
No,
cladding is?
The cladding is, yes.
That's how it works. Okay. And this, you got this place up in record time, didn't you?
Oh, hell no.
Oh.
Gosh, no. I'm still working on it. There's 4 things in life that never get finished, Wayne. 1 is a house, 2 is a boat, 3 is a yard, and 4 is a farm. And I've had all 4 of those, and I know from experience that never do you ever get them done. No sooner do you finish the house and you think it's finished, now it's time to remodel it and start over again.
Yeah, it's like painting the harbour bridge. That never gets finished and you have to
Exactly
restart
right.
again.
Mhm.
It's like a mechanic's car.
Yeah.
That never gets finished.
No, the house is 90% finished, and I just finish it off a bit at a time. But no, we lost it in the flood in 2007, and I've been rebuilding ever since.
So, but that's not your profession.
No, that's my hobby.
That's your hobby.
Building's my hobby.
So what do you do for a profession?
Well, I was recruited to New Zealand back in 1990 to become a special education teacher at Bay of Islands College, who needed a replacement teacher. I was a special ed teacher in California for about 15 years of my career, working with mostly Down syndrome population people. I was considered very successful. It was a fantastic group of people to work with because they were born with handicaps. They were born with disadvantages. They, over a period of time, learned that they had to work harder than the rest of us to achieve and to better themselves because they had some big challenges. And I've never worked with a more motivated group of people in my entire life. And the principal of Bay of Islands College happened to be visiting in America and came into my classroom in California and said, "Ooh, someday I'd like to have you be a teacher at my school." And I came over and visited New Zealand, and I got, yep, I could give up California for the Bay of Islands. Being a sailor had a lot to do with it as well.
Yeah.
Okay. So I was special ed teacher in California, came over here to special education teach. Special education here in New Zealand, totally different to what I was used to in the States. I can't say it was as satisfying as I was hoping it would be. The school system is significantly different. New Zealand has tremendous amount of challenges. I didn't think it even realizes what its challenges are, and particularly in Northland. And after about 15 years, I became dissatisfied with what I was doing. I gave that up, and I thought, oh, I'll go yachting or build a boat or do something differently. And no sooner did I give up the job than the Ministry of Social Development, Work and Income, approached me and said, we have a huge need for the Kawa Kawa community to work with the people who've dropped out of high school, have no education qualifications, no certification of anything, really almost no education whatsoever. And we need something to help those people get into employment. We need some sort of a training program. We need life skills training that'll lead to employment. So, make a long story short, I was actually commissioned to draw up and create a program. And having done something very similar in California with my handicapped group of people and teaching what we called their independent living skills, even though it's quote to a normal intellectual, intelligent group of people, I used a lot of my background experience and said, well, this is what people need to know. And so I put together a program, and I was contracted to place 16 people into employment over a 12-week period of time and run my program. And I consider myself very unsuccessful, and I failed because out of the 16 people, I only got 12 into employment.
That's abysmal.
Well, Work and Income was so impressed, they offered me a second contract.
No, so that terrible.
Yeah. They wanted me to do another contract, and bottom line is, I turned them down. I said I wasn't the least bit interested. And the reason I wasn't interested is I had too much of a problem working with the people and getting consistent attendance, reliable attendance, developing a work ethic. And because so many of the young people were, maybe only been out of high school 3 or 4 years, they were all on benefit, it kind of reminded me too much of my experience in high school.
In the high school. And that's, that I wouldn't mind revisiting that a little bit. So if we just backtrack just slightly, you said that the people that you work with in special education in California were really go-getters. They really wanted it. You did some really special things.
Yes, we did.
So, I mean, some of the stories, I know there's a McDonald's story, there's a because of course in America it's big to have someone greeting you when you come in the door in some stores, isn't it? And then you had the apartments across the road. So this whole life skills thing, it's not just reading, writing, and arithmetic. It's really is life skills. That's what you're.
In fact, it wasn't reading, writing, or arithmetic at all. It was, the average handicapped person who's intellectually handicapped. We used to term years ago mentally retarded. Throughout the generations, we keep coming up with a more political correctness term. But the bottom line is, if you go back to old terminology, we're talking about mental retardation or limited learning ability. The students I worked with were between the ages of 14 and 22. By the time they were 16 and 17, they saw their classmates driving cars and owning cars, and they realized themselves that they couldn't possibly ride a car or ever drive a car. That wasn't going to happen. So the main focus of my program was teaching people how to become dependent on public transportation. So part of my daily classroom routine was taking my class out on city buses and teaching them how to ride city buses.
They're all practical everyday things.
Yep. And we had to have a destination. So one day the destination might be to a bowling alley. Another day it might be to a gym to do physical fitness training. Another day it might be to a park to go for a walk in a park. And so I actually used the community as the classroom, and the classroom was only an assembly place just to get together and meet to outline what the daily program was going to be and what we're going to do. And the students had to plan everything. And by the end of 3 or 4 years, my students were all fairly independent to the point where most of them ended up living in either a separate house where their parents would actually come and check on them on a daily basis, but they learned how to cook for themselves, grocery shop for themselves, ride the bus around town, and the next step was to start getting people into employment. And I'm quite proud of the fact, at least in my city, I broke through the barrier of what used to be we won't hire the handicapped, to Hey, do you got any one of your students that we can have working here for us at
So
McDonald's or Burger
word got
King?
out,
Word got out.
and people wanted your people.
Yep, they did. They did. Probably one of the highest compliments I got was a student of mine, one of my favorite students, his name is Joey, and he just turned 50. So that gives you an idea how old I'm getting. Kind of scary.
52. Yep.
Yeah. Parents asked him what he wanted to do for his birthday, and they kept offering, would you like to go to Hawaii? No, I've been there. Do you want to go to Disneyland? No, I've been there. Well, Joey, what would you like to do? If I could have anything, I want to go to New Zealand and see my favorite teacher. Well, to make a long story short, mother contacted me and said, hey, what do you think? Can Joey and I come over and see you? And I said, well, let me think about it. And rather than give him an answer, I just put 2 airplane tickets in the mail and sent them to him as my way of saying, yes, please come. And that's what I did. Now the highlight to that is Joey came out here, and I hope the police aren't listening, but we went up to 90 Mile Beach. And so I was driving along 90 Mile Beach. I pretended that I needed Joey to hold on to the steering wheel while I combed my hair or adjusted a mirror. So we went for about 10 kilometers, and he's actually driving the car on the passenger side, and I could tell he had total control of it. So we stopped and got out and picked up a few shells.
So Joey got to drive that car.
I didn't tell you that yet.
Oh.
So what we did is that I said, well, we picked up our shells. I ran back to the car and got in the passenger seat. And Joey says, where am I supposed to sit? I said, right over there with the driver's seat. Joey actually drove all the way up 90 Mile Beach to the very end. We went up to Cape Reinga. I drove that part. And we got back on the 90 Mile Beach. He drove all the way back to Kaitaia. Wow. So he probably did about 100 kilometers of driving. First and only time and last time in his life he ever drove a vehicle. Now I know it's 100% illegal, and I'll probably get busted tomorrow. The police will come get me, but it was a heck of an experience, and I can honestly tell you, we did not pass a single car the whole day.
Well, it's all right. Only 2 people listen to the show, so you're pretty safe.
Well, and
neither of them are police officers, as far as I know, unless they're undercover. So,
But that's the sort of stuff I did in terms of teaching people to be part of the community, not end up in care homes, not end up in institutions, but try to live at least semi-independent lives. And so I used that experience to come over here in New Zealand to set up what I now call the Stepping into Employment Training Program.
And that's one thing I was going to say too. I mean, in order to teach people with learning difficulties, you've really got to break the learning right down. And you're an expert.
I can honestly say my background in special education is what helped my current classroom situation work as well, because people come into my program and we start working on some life skill things, and right away everybody puts on an air and an act as if they know what they're doing when they really don't.
They're covering up,
a big huge cover-up act, and then I can go through and basically pinpoint and diagnose what parts they don't understand. And I describe my program is a chain of learning. You give a person a question and a problem to solve, and at the end of it comes out the answer. But if that chain of processing the answer is broken in a few places, you're never going to get the answer. My job is to find out where those links are broken and help people fix it. And that's why we're successful. So yeah, I'd say one of the few gifts that I have is being able to help people understand what they don't understand and how to understand that.
And I've sat in your classroom many a time. People are doing an assignment, everything's quiet, and then someone's like, "Oh, is that all this means?" Like it's been bugging them their entire lives, and that chain has just been fixed.
Yep, and that's probably one of the highlights of my day or my week, when someone says, "Oh, I get it now! My God, I get it now!" And I think one of the reasons I emphasize so much in our training program, even though the outcome is supposed to be employment, is I use the training program, classroom training, to help people get a lot of self-confidence. And I do see and feel a lot of self-confidence growing. Okay, particularly when you talk about hire purchase agreements. A lot of people I work with don't have a concept of what payment interest is or hire purchase interest is, and you break it down step by step and explain it to them in ways that they understand. Oh, is that why I keep paying for the same car over and over? I think I paid it 3 times now. and because people just don't understand the concept of interest. And I do a lot of that. The other thing I find that most people don't understand is a simple relationship between fractions, percentages, and decimals. And I teach it in such a way that, you mean all three of those words mean the same thing? Yeah, yeah. Oh, why didn't they tell me that when I was in school? And people say, well, I think they did, but we probably were too staunch to listen. So there's always a point in somebody's life when they're more interested in learning.
Or they didn't have a teacher as good as you.
No.
I like it when you're working and you ask a question. Explain this to me. What does this mean? And people offer you some answers, and you go, no, pretend I'm a 10-year-old. I don't get these highfalutin words that you're using.
Exactly.
Really, and I think that's probably the big difference. That's why people get it when you're showing them.
It's breaking it down. Well, one of the things I had to travel 8,000 miles to learn one of the most valuable things in life. It's called the New Zealand KISS principle. K-I-S-S.
Is that got to do with solo parents or anything? Okay, you explain it.
The New Zealand KISS principle should be known worldwide. Keep it simple, stupid. And that's the fundamentals of my teaching and my training program, is keep everything you try to teach simple to make sure people understand it. And then part of my assignment says, okay, now go home and explain this to your kids tonight. And that's where I get a real buzz, because I'll introduce something in class. The parents, for the first time in their life, get it and understand it. They can't wait to run home and share it with their kids.
So they ask you, have you got spare blanks? I want to take these home.
Spare homework, yeah.
Spare homework, yep.
And I often suggest, if you did this, instead of watching 4 or 5 murders tonight on television, you might grow and your students might get something better out of it. And so it's quite exciting when a parent comes back the next day and says, we turned off the TV last night and this is what we did. And then they come
We did
back,
math.
yeah. And then the next day they said, we were starting to watch something, and my kid said, hey, can we do what we did last night instead of watching TV? Ooh, that means you're making some progress somewhere.
That's big time, isn't it?
Yeah, it is.
And it really does, this is the way I like to put it, it puts people in the driver's seat of their own life. They're able to make decisions. There's so many quick talking salespeople that want to get you to sign the deal. You actually give your clients a lot of life skills, so it puts them in the driver's seat, and they might say, you know what, I don't think I want to sign this one.
Yep. Or, before I sign this, can I have a representative look it over for me, because I may not quite understand it. That we do. But the whole idea of the program is using those the classroom and teaching life skills, which most of our people that I work with really do lack, but they have spent most of their lives covering up, acting like they do know, when in fact they really know. And when you talk to them, they will admit, no, I don't know how to do that, or I don't know what that's about.
And it's been holding them back.
Yeah, well, for example, why go to work if you don't understand your pay packet or your pay slip? You work so many hours, but you don't understand how much money you get. Well, why? So we teach people to do that. And by developing self-confidence and a higher level of self-confidence, people are more ready to go to work.
And I've seen it perform miracles. I know there's some people that start your course, this is where they see themselves at in terms of a job, and then they end up here somewhere.
Oh shoot!
You've got a million stories. Like you've got that. There's a fellow that became a skipper on a boat now. There's a fellow that has become a marine.
Oh, I don't want to tell you. I've missed the boat because I got some clients who are making twice as much money as I'm making, and they used to be sitting in my class. So, but it's neat because I'll go and talk to them, and I'll say, yeah, well, hey, if you got any free time, will you fix the engine on my boat? Boy, right away it gets fixed.
Really?
And I don't get a bill for it, But that's because they're making twice as much as I am anyway.
They don't need to charge you. They're thanking you.
Yeah, it's kind of a gratitude, thank you, happy, and it's really quite neat to walk down the streets of Kawakawa or Opua or wherever and have a client come across, hey, Gary, how you doing? Guess what I'm doing? Just like what happened 2 weeks ago in your front yard.
That was
Arthur.
Arthur, that's right. Arthur, yeah.
Yeah, you and I were standing in your front yard in the driveway. I'm ready to come back up to Opua, and as we were talking there, all of a sudden this truck goes by. And
the truck goes rattling by, and then it's like, and he's backing up, and he's parking, and he's getting out.
Yeah, and first thing it is, it ran over. Hi, Gary, how are you? And he shook my hand. Now, damn it all, I didn't recognize the guy. He changed, his hair was growing, a few other things, and then he introduced himself and told me who he was and told me about the jobs I helped him get, and then he pointed out the truck that he owned that was his own private business. He's in forestry, and he's his own boss and he's his own manager, and he's now self-employed and doing well. And I said, "Oh, how long have you been off the benefit?" "Ever since you got me that job at the hotel, I haven't."
I remember what he said. He said, "It's either J or J," and you're like, "What?" He's like, "It's either joint or job."
Joint, that's right.
And then that other guy came walking along and he was smoking something.
Yeah, yeah.
And he's like, "Oh, I've got a lighter." And your mate Arthur like gets him a lighter and he's talking to me saying, "Cut that out. Come see me."
Oh, yeah.
So
in fact, Arthur's actually in a situation where he employs staff in his business. Yeah, you're right.
So he's carrying on what you started. So like, there's a legacy happening. It doesn't just stop with Arthur. It goes on.
No.
And there's a lot of Arthurs out there, right? So how
my one student who is now finishing up his last year of his marine engineering apprenticeship, by the time he's 30, he'll have his own private marine shop, and he'll be hiring people like himself and teaching them marine mechanics, and he'll be making $100,000 a year.
Easy, probably.
Yeah.
Especially in Oka.
And he'll have 3 or 4 mechanics working for him at age 30.
It's not bad, is it?
Well, I missed the boat. If money was my objective in life, which I've had a very rich life that money couldn't replace, so I can't complain.
Well, I know you're a guy with a big heart. You like to see people succeed, and you work very hard at helping them. And I really...
Well, not all people. I can only help those that want to help themselves. If there's people out there, I'm sorry, who don't want to help themselves, well, I can't make much success with them. But here, like I said, I start off in special ed, and those people all wanted to help themselves. And I'm working now, and probably 3/4 of the people I work with really do want to help themselves.
Right.
And I think it's all a point of when they're ready to be helped and when they want to help themselves. So I may have a 20-year-old come in and he was born knowing all the answers, and he drops out of the program. Well, some have gone 3 or 4 years later, because I've been in this for 12 years now. 3 or 4 years later, they come back and says, "I think I'm ready to listen now."
So it's a timing thing too, huh?
Oh, yeah.
So it's not a question of ability. They all have the ability. It's just...
Well, we all mature at different paces, at different rates, at different times. And all of a sudden, one day we wake up and a wake-up call like, this getting drunk every day and this going to parties all night, I'm not getting anywhere in life. My friends are driving nicer cars. My friends are buying houses. This is not the life for me, and I'm ready to get some help now.
So, what is it, 10 years? You've been doing this? 10, 11
12.
years? 12 years.
Mm-hmm.
And how many people into work?
Oh, I estimate, I haven't done the total numbers, but over 650.
Over 650 people into work over those 12 years. That's a lot. Do they all sort of stick around, or do some of them head off overseas, different places?
Well, Australia, of course, is a place where a lot of people go. A lot of people go there for a couple of years, then come back. People go to Europe, but mostly they move around New Zealand a lot, and back and forth to Australia. Those are the main 2 places.
So this program you run, do you see what if you could just click your fingers and see the future of the program, where would you like that to be? Where would you like this program to go?
Whoa, gosh. I'm quite happy to just keep it localized, doing what I'm doing, and help the people in my immediate community.
So it's the mid-north area, isn't it?
Well, right now it's just, for me, it's the Bay of Islands and working with you in Whangarei. Where do I like to see it go? I like to see a better way that all of us in the same sort of business. There are several different training providers, training programs. You've got the Polytechs, North Tech, and so somehow I guess my goal would be to see if there's a way we could all somehow work together. Instead of working independently, you got working income here, you got a training provider there, you got something else. We're all trying to do the same thing, but we aren't doing it collectively together. And if we could come up with a strategy that we could all work together for the benefit of the same people we're trying to help, I think we get what I call a much bigger bang for the buck.
I think
We
you're
get a
right.
much bigger outcome, much better success rate, and I think overall we can make some big major steps forward.
I buy your philosophy wholeheartedly and completely, because there are some areas of Northland where they have actually decided to do that, and it is working quite nicely. So that's where you'd like to see it going. Everybody working collectively. So if anybody was listening and thought, "Gee, I'd love to use this program to get up on my feet and get in the driver's seat," how can people engage with you and your program and get access to these materials? How can they do that?
Well, Wayne, you can give out your own phone number and have them call you since you're the radio host here, and then you can pass their names on to me, sort of thing.
Sounds all right
I
to
guess
me.
one of the things I would kind of like to see is a way that we could somehow run the program and open it up to anybody who wanted further assistance, and they didn't have to be on the benefit, because both you and I know they have to be in receipt of a benefit before they're technically allowed to get our help. But I have had quite a few people that are on benefit that self-refer themselves to our program, and those are people that I enjoy working with.
They're motivated, aren't they?
Yeah, it's just too bad that we have to have, in order to get our funding, we can only work with beneficiaries. It'd be neat if we could work with other people, and it'd be neat if we could work with more young people who are just on the verge of going on a benefit but want some extra help, and perhaps we could keep those people off the benefit if we could get them employed before they became eligible for a benefit.
Well, then you and I better talk off here. We got some planning to do.
Yeah, we do.
That sounds awesome. Well, thank you, Gary, for coming on the show. Really appreciate it.
Mm-hmm.
And I know people are going to get a lot out of it. And if anybody does want to find out more about the program, just text or call 021 176 4266 and you'll get to speak to me, and I'll put you through to Gary.
Fair enough. Thanks, Wayne.